it has a USB-C port, which means with this Magic Keyboard accessory, you have access to 2 USB-C ports, because after all, the iPad Pro connects with that smart connector. So you will have access to both USB-C ports on the right and the left side, which, by the way, this keyboard is said to be backlit. And based from the website, this should work technically for the previous generation iPads Pro. So like the 2018 model should also be compatible with that new Magic Keyboard. So if you want and you own the previous generation iPad Pro, you can just get that keyboard, but it's gonna cost you. Because for the 11-inch version, it sells for $299 and it's $50 more for the 12-inch model. However, unfortunately, it's not gonna come out alongside the next generation iPad Pro, March 25th. Apple has it on their website, it's gonna come out sometime in May. And that's all we know. We really don't have an exact date. So somewhat disappointing, but exciting at the same time. But in the meantime, if you do pick up a new generation iPad Pro and you never had a smart keyboard, the current smart keyboards that's available on the market look like it's gonna support it. Just keep in mind, you might need to modify the camera hump. But in the meantime, you can pick up the standard smart keyboard or the Folio, as I have it specifically designed for the new generation iPad Pro with that new camera array, which we'll talk about in a bit. But I'm assuming if you already own that smart keyboard, you might have to modify it. Who knows? Maybe I'll cover it in a future video. Now, the thing that I noticed about that trackpad, it's slightly smaller than what Apple is using on their MacBooks. So comfort wise, I have to test out for myself to see if there's any issue with a smaller trackpad. And then an interesting sentence that I found on the Apple newsroom page. The way it's gonna work is it's different from when you attach a third-party mouse to your iPad. You have to go in the settings and you have the cursor. When you attach it to the Magic Keyboard and you're actually using the touchpad, the mouse will appear, and then when it's not in use, it will disappear, so you can use it as a regular touchscreen. So you don't have to toggle with any settings, I guess. So that's all we have how that new trackpad's gonna work. Moving on, other important hardware that we have to cover is that new camera. This new iPad now has a 10 megapixel ultra wide lens, very similar to like the current setups on these latest generation iPhones. And then for its primary camera, it's using a 12 megapixel wide lens. Just there's no telephoto lens like the iPhone 11 Pro. But replacing the telephoto lens is a new LiDAR sensor, and this hardware is specifically designed for augmented reality. With this new sensor, this will allow the iPad to actually map out an in-depth field of a room, so like the walls and textures and stuff like that. On their press room, they show images here how that will look like. So this is just a new tool, new hardware that developers can play with. Then when it comes to its internals, again, we discussed that it has double the storage capacity for the standard model. Instead of the 64 gig being the standard, it's now 124. But this new processor, it's kind of interesting. We originally thought it was going to be an A13X or something like that, but instead Apple labeled this next generation processor to be called an A12Z Bionic chipset. Long title, but interesting enough, it's said to be extremely fast to outperform not just the previous generation iPads, but most PC laptops. That is a really interesting statement by Apple, and I'm excited to test that out and see if this is true. Graphics wise, it's using a 8-core graphics processor, but besides that, this sounds like a very capable machine for not just rendering images, video, but also augmented reality. So when it comes to content creating, this machine should be able to perform like a champ. Then when it comes to its display, it doesn't seem like anything major has happened. It's still using Apple Pro Motion displays that was available on even the previous generation iPad Pros, both for the 11 and the 12.9 inch. It's also going to continue to use the second generation Apple Pencil, so it will magnetically attach onto the iPad as well as pair and charge that way. However, very similar to like the latest generation 16-inch MacBook Pro, this one has a new microphone array that is set to deliver studio quality as well. So the